Um,
Good evening, everyone.
anyone hear that? Is that coming out of the speakers?
Yeah. Oh, that's not.
Okay. I got it. Oh. There we go. I think that's better. I'm not sure if everyone will be able to, I don't know if their voices will make it into the mic. So if that's not the case, then I'll repeat their questions, but we can try it. We can try and see if it works. So anyway.
Oh, did you blow everyone's ears out?
The voice quality is pretty bad.
All right, all right.
I
But
think
it's coming through clear, right?
it's getting better. I'm turning down the volume.
There we go. Gotta crank it like you get a hand crank. You know.
Maybe turn down the editor too.
What?
Maybe turn down the volume on the.
I think that's.
Is it
I think it's good now. All right.
Yeah, it's good now.
I don't know if we can turn this to see everybody.
Hi, guys.
Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, so go pitch us the Free State Project.
All right. Well, as you might know, it's a project to move 20,000 liberty activists out to the state of New Hampshire to effect change so we can achieve liberty in our lifetime. That's the canned little speech that we give. And now there's a bunch of different projects that are like that, like the Blue Ridge Liberty Project, there's seasteading, there's things like that that people do. Oh, well, why not move to Texas? Oh, let's move to Wyoming, whatever. It's all well and good, but here's one way we're actually making a difference, and that's why I moved out in September, is because I saw the effects that they were having here, and I decided I needed to be in on it. So, the three big points, what makes this is such an awesome thing to be part of, is one, we've had a lot of actual legislative and activism victories. For example, all the 420 rallies that Rich Paul and others have conducted here have so changed the sentiment that now New Hampshire recently became the first state house to pass a broad-based legalization bill of marijuana. Now, I don't know if that's going to survive the Senate or if the governor is going to veto that. But even Colorado, that was a citizen ballot initiative, not a legislative effort. And so we actually have enough legislators to pass something like that in the House, which is pretty huge. And another thing, New Hampshire has become I believe the first state or the only state to block license plate reader cameras. And it's important to note that both of these are by free stater margins, as in we have about a dozen or so people in the state house. As in people who've moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, about a dozen or so have been elected to the state house. And these votes were like 8 or 5 votes respectively. That was the margin, so it was by.
This is the NSA blocking our signals.
Wait, Richard didn't on that song.
More freedoms.
We can't know about New Hampshire.
Related.
Yeah, we're trying to disrupt this. All right, are we back then?
Hey, okay. Getting there.
All right, are we good yet?
Yeah.
All right, all right.
Okay, you're back.
Anyway, where was I?
See, you were talking about a dozen or so people in the
Where was
House.
I?
The margins.
Margins.
Yeah, the margins. Yes, we won 2 big legislative victories this last session by free stater margins, and that's pretty huge. Now the other thing, we have several anarchists in the state house, which sounds kind of weird, but we have several, and more than one Democrat anarcho-capitalists elected on the Democratic Party ticket. Now, I'll challenge you to find it anywhere else. It just doesn't happen. And one of them introduced an NDA nullification bill, and it passed. So, legislatively, we got things under control. Now, as far as activism, for example, there are a few early movers in the Free State Project. We're doing a lot of filming the police type activism, which used to be very cracked down on, and then they had long court battles, and then they ended up winning. And now any cop in New Hampshire is able to be filmed, and they don't give you any trouble. Now, even relatively free places, a lot of times they're not used to that. And they've also managed to establish a good open gun culture. For example, state legislators open carry in session, in the legislative buildings. There are no metal detectors or anything. It's just the way it is. All right, so that's the big, most obvious thing. Now, number 2 is agorism. Is everyone familiar with that word?
Yay.
Not all.
Okay, it's described as counter-economics. It's basically doing business, having economic activity outside of the government-controlled sphere. Like, say you're going to do a taxi service. Don't go for any of the permits. Don't go for anything. Don't file taxes, anything. Just start giving people rides for money, period. That's what agorism is, and of course, it's technically, sometimes frowned upon by the powers that be, but the point is to not really be under the radar. And so there's a huge agorist community here. And for example, one of my friends managed to start his Agora Cab, this cab service, and he's able to sustain himself on the whole business on just fellow, as we call them, porcupines, fellow free staters. And so there's a lot of businesses that in the free stater, and so that's another thing it'd be really hard to find anywhere else. And there's a lot of people who come here and they do whatever they want to do, operate completely under the radar, and effectively kick back zero to the government, which is a great thing. Also, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really huge around here. We've got the biggest bar, Murphy's Tap Room, in town to accept Bitcoin. And so there's some of my buddies there right now drinking pints paying Bitcoin. Now, Agora Cab, they accept mostly Bitcoin. And I helped over the last weekend, over Liberty Forum. I was an extra driver for Agora Cab because they needed help. And about 60 to 70% of the income I got was in Bitcoin because it's so common around here. In fact, a few months ago, I lived for an entire week off of nothing but Bitcoin here, and very little of it was brick and mortar institutions. Almost everything was within the community. So it's almost a self-sustaining community. And so basically you can come and do whatever you want to do. With I teach martial arts. I do graphic design. I write a blog. I pay contributors in Bitcoin. I started my YouTube channel. I'm starting to do videos. There's just a million different things you can do. Everything you want to do, you can basically just come here and find a way to do it and find a way to feed yourself doing it. And that's not really something you can replicate anywhere else like that. And then the last big thing is community. Now, see this group you got right now, this kind of size group, is typical for almost every building you go to in the Porcupine community here. If almost any given night, if you're just like, we want to go hang out and have dinner, instantly you got about 20 people who want to come with you, all free-minded, all fellow libertarian whatevers. And so there's a really strong social community. You never have to feel alone doing anything. And, for example, whenever someone's pulled over around here by the cops, someone puts up a quick message, and instantly, within a couple minutes, a few staters come by and start building the cops and helping them with advice and stuff. So the community is just really strong. And almost anything you want to get done, like a project, oh, good dudes, we should do this cool thing. And you might get one or two people where you are now, but then over in the Free State, you get a whole big group doing it. And you just can't really put a price on that kind of thing. And so I really expect very soon a lot of great things are going to come out of the state. Again, ignoring all the wonderful things that have happened already. And if anytime you can, please come up and visit, because you have to sort of see it and experience it to believe it. We've had a lot of people over the Liberty Forum weekend who've come up. We've given them a little bit of tour around, and they've just been completely blown away. It's almost like, getting unplugged from the Matrix finally. It's like, whoa, there's this whole other world I didn't even know. So, what's stopping you from visiting? All right, I'm done. Any questions?
Do you have any questions?
Miss you, buddy.
Oh, yes, you do. Big hug, big hug. All right, that's not technically a question, but I'm not the fucking cops, so I'm not gonna care.
What do you think about Mt. Gox closing?
What do I think? I think it's great. Couldn't wait for that thing to get out of there. I mean, it was messing with the price of Bitcoin for so long, and then it lends. I mean, Mt. Gox stands for, you know what it stands for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Magic the Gathering Online Exchange, and it's kind of it passing as a big part of the Bitcoin infrastructure kind of makes it more legitimate now. So it's one of the growing pains.
I'm not familiar with this exchange, Joel. Could you fill me in?
On Mt. Gox?
Yeah, what is it?
Well, I'm not exactly the hugest expert in its origins, but basically it was a cryptocurrency exchange started, and it was horribly mismanaged over time, and eventually they had what can only be described as a run on the banks. They didn't have enough Bitcoins. There was a lot of Bitcoin unaccounted for that people were unable to take out, and so it caused the price on that exchange to go down, and that affected the whole currency market. And then now that they're gone, they can sort of restabilize at the level it should be. And so the more time goes on, the more Bitcoin becomes integrated into the economy, the global economy, and the less these things kind of matter. Before, Bitcoin, like all cryptocurrencies, like Dogecoin right now, it was completely it was an online curiosity just traded around, and just oh, your trade's here, let's speculate. It's a lot of speculating and day trading, and now it's become much more of people rely on it for their incomes a lot. And so the more that happens, and the less it's like a day traded thing, the more stable it'll become, and then long term, the value is going to go through the roof.
So how many free staters are there?
How many free staters are there? Do you count signers or movers?
Both.
Well, signers were approaching 16,000. The idea behind the Free State Project was when 20,000 signers were reached, they would all agree that within 5 years of reaching that number, they would all move out. And so far, we're more than 3/4 of the way through. And about 1,500 or so have moved out already, early movers, the legends. Not to pat myself on the back, but I think I'm mover number 1108, and there's about 1,500, so already about 400 people have moved after me when I came out in September. And I remember I was the first person not to have a mover party, because before it used to be every new mover they would throw a party for them, and now there's just too many. You can't throw a party for every single mover, so now they do a general mover party at the beginning of each month. And so there's a whole lot of momentum going behind that, and I guess the ambitious plan is to trigger the move, get the 20,000 signers by the end of next year, and so by the end of 2020, the Free State Project is officially begun. Now it's important to note, with all these gains we've had, the project hasn't even officially begun yet. We're still gathering signers, and from what I'm seeing, it seems like the 1,500 are already accomplishing a lot of what the 20,000 were supposed to accomplish. So with only 20,000, I mean, that's just like morning, 1,000 people, even 2,000 people. It's going to be epic. So yeah, definitely keep your eyes on this place and come over and visit because we have a great thing going on.
Do you think they chose the right state?
Oh, absolutely. There was a bunch of different states. Most of the states had too large of a population. New Hampshire has about 1.2 million. Wyoming has like 4 people. I don't know. I didn't get a statistic on that, but it is like 4 to 5 people. And the problem is Wyoming is not like a place where you can get a good infrastructure going. New Hampshire has been there forever. It's been, in fact, New Hampshire declared independence from Britain 6 months before any of the other colonies, before the Declaration was written. And the first hostilities of the war were actually raiding the British garrison at Portsmouth in New Hampshire before Lexington conquered and all that stuff. And so it has a long history as like the live free or die state. And I mean, honestly, if you go anywhere, it's a nice place. You come up here, it's got 4 great seasons. You know, it's beautiful. When you come in leaf season, especially in the fall, it's really nice. Winter, you know, it's a little bit cold, but it's not that bad. It's warmer than Chicago, that's for damn sure. It's like Boston or so. And then spring is great, summer is great. The whole state is beautiful. We got quaint, charming little towns. We got enough big infrastructure. We got beautiful coastlines. Like everything, it's a place people actually want to move because it's not. You don't just want to go there and just live out in your cabin on the plains and just talk about liberty and stockpile guns until some drone bombs you or something. I mean, there are people who do want to do that, and there's plenty of space up in the north of the state to go do that. But if you want to live a good life, actually, you know, not move to a shithole, you know. It's probably the first best state, you know. It was already sort of there without the Free State Project, and now with it, it's just something even better.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, it's a pretty fancy mic, or where are you?
Oh, I'm in my room.
You just have to have giant flags and good audio.
Yep, well, because I do this kind of thing for a living too now.
Oh, okay.
And so I felt, well, I need a good microphone. I need to just put that flag over the window, and then pretty soon I'm going to be moving into a bigger place with another guy I stayed with in Chicago, Rob Mathias, who later moved after me. And so we're getting a place together and having this big studio in the living room, and we're going to put out a lot of great stuff. Look forward to that.
Yeah, I listened to some of the like Free Keen radio podcasts and stuff. So, are you associated with, I don't know, anything like that? Or?
Yeah, Free Keen's not directly associated with the Free State Project. They do have their own thing going on. Now, the story behind Keen's kind of funny because they call it Keene, Vermont sometimes because it's right on the Vermont border and has that sort of lefty college town vibe to it, and it's sort of isolated from the rest of the state. And the reason Keene was picked was because it was the one impossible goal. It was like, well, it's a lost cause trying to do anything in Keene, so we have nothing to lose. And so a lot of the more hardcore and gregarious and annoying activists went out to Keene, and they're the loudest ones. A lot of the real stuff happens in Manchester, but it's not quite as reported on. Of course, I'm going to start changing that. By the end of the year, you're going to see Manchester become possibly the liberty media capital of the state, if not the world. So, yeah, keep in tune for that.
I had a question about, I've heard, I don't know, can you hear me first of all?
Yeah, I could so far.
Okay, I had a question about, I heard of that like group of people, I think they're from New Hampshire, who went around like paying off people's parking tickets, and I think they were called Robin Hood.
Yeah. I know a few Robin Hooders. Robin Hooders are an interesting group because to a lot they've generated some negative feedback in the community just from people not being ready for it, like not understanding what they're doing. But then when people actually get a chance to see what they're doing, they're just paying off the meter so the state doesn't, again, rob people for having their car there too long. And holding the police accountable in a very small and easy sort of way, it's really generate. I mean, there's a lot of people who do Robin Hooding for a living. They've managed to be able to make a living out of it because there's enough support from the people to do it. And it really challenges the very base institutions of the state in every level that, most people don't think parking tickets are a thing that's like, oh, NSA spying, NDA, drone bombing, it's those big things, but these are the things that affect people in a daily life. I mean, who hasn't gotten a ticket ever? Who hasn't, been out a while, out some money because of that? And it's just like fighting that, or in a very peaceful, non-provocative way. That's an interesting thing, and they've made a name for themselves doing that. There's a few projects coming up out of Manchester, and I would blow my own horn about all that stuff, but I think I'll report on it when it happens.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
Always talking to you guys. All right. You have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.